haven't really been a currency, but they were what their name implies, drawing rights. They were just a right to a currency. And then it was us, the big moneyed countries, but mainly us, who would cough up the dollars. So they would have a claim on these dollars, but they still had to come through it. We had to come through with the dollars. Whereas now, apparently, they're just a fiat currency. They're just issuing SDRs in the same way that the Federal Reserve issues Federal Reserve notes.
So is this going to be the new global benchmark currency then?
Well, apparently that's what they have
SDRs?
in mind. Yeah. And then that'll push us aside as the global reserve currency, and then so nobody will worry that they've devalued that dollar heavily, but that's exactly what they did to all these third world countries. And that means that they'll be able to buy up all our assets
from
the dollar, and they'll say that we're heavily in debt, and therefore we have to do these austerity measures, which means privatize everything, which is, you can see that starting. I mean, it's largely happening already.
Where do they get the ability to dictate to first world nations what they're going to do or what they're not going to do? I could see it beating up on the weak.
Well, so this is a milestone, but it's because of the debt, if they can lock us into debt. I mean, you could say that Iceland and those Eastern European countries, those are pretty much first world, and they're heavily locked into debt, and they've got wiped out, and their currencies got heavily devalued, and everything got bought out for pennies on the dollar. Well, Iceland hasn't done it yet. They're resisting. I mean,
good for them.
Hopefully they'll default. That's what they should do. But see, that's the point. Once you're locked into debt to the IMF, you're not going to default. You could default to the big banks because you just say we don't have the money.
So when you borrow money from the IMF, you literally make a deal with the devil.
Pretty much, because they determine your credit rating for the
Who
world.
are these people,
Well,
Ellen?
it's a big question. They have more of a democratic structure than, for example, the Bank for International Settlements, which is why I guess I'd rather, if we have to choose between the two, I suppose I'd go for the IMF, because they're at least talking about making it more democratic, the Chinese, and that they're opening it up and giving more votes.
But who are they?
Well, it's supposedly it was largely us. I mean, we've got the biggest vote of anybody, and we set it up. But us still means our bankers. They're still not acting in our interest. We the people. I mean, we the people have no real votes in the IMF. When do we ever even hear about these issues? It's not even discussed. It's not like, at least in Congress, you hear them banter this stuff back and forth, and you can go out and make trouble or whatever if you're opposed, but nobody even knows what's going on in the IMF.
I am not surprised. So, SDRs, special drawing rights, could be the benchmark. They won't call it SDRs. Call it something else, I guess.
Well,
why don't we just make CDS the new international currency and just move everything to the other side of the ledger and pretend and call it positive? 1.5 quadrillion.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing everything else crazy. I mean, they're making it up as they go along.
Well, the other thing they did was that the IMF is now put in charge of $500 billion worth of, supposedly it was a stimulus package for the third world. But the problem is, normally a stimulus package is a grant. You give them the money to build something.
Not
But
anymore.
in this case, they're lending them the money. And what that means is they're going to use that money to pay off their debts to the banks. So the money will go straight to the banks. It won't even
benefit the people at all.
No.
And in the meantime, they will have tied up their natural resources. No more grants.
Right.
So they're all loans.
The Philippines right now. Apparently, I was told by a Filipino that 80% of their revenues goes to pay foreign debt, but I think that might be high because I saw a different figure somewhere else. But anyway, a huge, huge proportion of their money goes to pay foreign debt. And here they just got hit with the equivalent of Hurricane Katrina,
Right.
and they don't have any money for social services.
Right.
So they've got all these homeless people, like millions of homeless people. I think it's a lot.
Yeah,
anyway.
it's a lot.
I forget them.
It's huge. All right, back in a minute with Ellen Brown. And do read her newest essay at Rense.com. She looks ahead and sees what's coming. All right, be right back.